of, oh, of each month. Sorry about that. Each month, we meet at some homes or properties and evaluate and analyze real estate investments for maximum profit. So this is a live event which I have been doing for about over 10 years and have been educating investors. So in February, we had this great ADU event, and I wanted to follow it up with an ADU live tour, which means going to properties that have ADUs in, maybe finished, maybe under construction. So obviously with the whole coronavirus, that got all derailed. And I'm sure you guys, I feel like I don't have the coronavirus, I have the information virus, as so much information is coming toward us regarding this. But I think because we are in uncharted territory right now, and it is really hard to say what the market will do. For the last week, I've been on the phone with people asking what the market will do. So if I have a question regarding real estate, I always call my best friend, Jerry Ryan, who is one of our presenters today. And he is a real estate private lender, investor, specializing in non-consumer residential and commercial lending. He can accommodate short-term transitional loans, construction lending, as well as real estate investment capital for both long-term needs and hard money projects. He also does a fantastic job of doing a monthly market update for another investor club in North County. So I called him up and said, please do a market synopsis and maybe status quo. So I invited him. He's going to be on next. But a lot of thanks to Meredith and Mike, who helped me out short term to put this webinar together, as I'm not equipped as today to do a webinar like this with several presenters. So Mike is the branch manager and senior loan officer of Loan Depot in San Diego. They have over 26 years experience, and his wife Meredith, they specialize in complex and long-term loan strategy, including ADUs, renovations, investments, and more. So they will be presenting in between after our scenarios. We'll also have the pleasure of having Chris Dalnikovsky and from Ruland Design Group. I have gotten a lot of good feedback from my clients that I have referred Chris to, that they do a fantastic job with ADU design. So they have over 20 years experience and in designing homes, remodels, commercial space, and ADUs. Since the state law has changed for granny flats, they have focused all their resources on ADUs. They don't do nothing but ADUs, and they have over 60 ADUs project in the works, and like she just can help you bring your project to life. She just signed 5 new projects, she was telling us this week, working from home. So, and then we also have the super powerful Hanish Polykel from Cal Home Co. He is, since 2002, Hanish has worked in the mortgage and real estate industry doing underwriting, sales, servicing, operations, management, and consulting. So Hanish now owns 3 distinct businesses, and please listen, because I think he is having pulled all 3 areas of ADU and real estate together. He is a real estate, he does investment properties, he's a general contracting, and California Home Company and Cal Home Company. He owns those companies. So everybody gets their chance to introduce themselves during the webinar. I just wanted to tell you who are our presenters and how much knowledge we have. And so I'm glad to have everybody pulled together. And I'm actually going to be very excited about what all they have to say. So hopefully we have Jerry live, And get ready, Jerry, because here is our webinar content. We're going to get a little market update. Then we're going to recap the rules and regulations. We have some virtual visits of some ADUs. We're going to run some financial scenarios. Like I always say, deal or no deal. And some good investment strategies for investors with ADUs. Interviews and experts, and open lines for question and answers if we technically can do it. So you guys see ADUs are taking off. But like I always say, is it a good time to invest in real estate? We don't do fortune telling here. We rather would do fortune building. Jerry, are you there?
I am here, and Lenska, thank you very much for putting this together, and Meredith and whomever else put this together. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be very, very quick with this presentation because I have to run out to another appointment. But as you mentioned, Lenska, I'm a real estate investor, and I also invest in other things, and I'm a private lender, hard money investor up here in Carlsbad. I have an office in the Village, but let me kind of get into where we're at. And by the way, I do the market update for the North San Diego Real Estate Investor Organization. In regards to where we are at today, there's more unknowns than there are knowns. I mean, this situation continues to unravel. And I really think, you know, if someone were to ask me right now what's going on, I would just say that our government and governments around the world are trying to stabilize this situation. Here's what we know. Inventory in San Diego County was weak in February. Demand stayed consistent or fairly strong because pendings were up. But none of that matters now because basically the world has been shut down. Well, so the real question is, and this is the unknown because no one knows the future, when America does get back to work or San Diego gets back to work, what's that inventory situation going to be like? I think the immediate response will be it'll probably continue to be weak. I think that are people going to be shopping for real estate right away? Probably not. They're probably going to be trying to get their life together and get back to work. I think one of the more interesting things I saw this week is, and I'll let the conventional mortgage people speak to this, but I was a little surprised to see the fixed rate 30-year mortgage spike up to 4.75, and I think at one point yesterday it hit 5%. And you've got the 10-year, which has been bouncing, the 10-year Treasury note bouncing between 0.38 and about 1.11, which has been the lowest it's been in years, maybe the lowest ever. You had an unprecedented 2 rate cuts by the Fed. They cut 150 basis points outside the regularly scheduled meetings. So you've had 2 big interest rate cuts, but yet the fixed mortgage rate spiked. So that is something that maybe the conventional people can talk about. But
yeah,
we do know.
I think Mike is going to chime in on that, but that slide right here shows it to us. Yes. Okay.
So very quickly, a couple other things I'd like to mention because I got to run here in a couple of minutes. What we are pretty certain about is we're going to see unemployment spike. When unemployment spikes 6 to 12 months or maybe 18 months later, that creates a definite dislocation in the real estate market because you will see a lot of notice of default action. Go back to 2009. You had over 49,000 notices of default filed in San Diego County. Whether it was a trustee deed or a notice of default in 2009. Last year, I think we had 2,700 total. So 12 to 16, anywhere from 6 to 18 months later, we could see a dislocation in the real estate market. Now, that's all dependent upon what the government's going to do to step in. They're already giving moratoriums on rents and mortgages and student loans and so forth. So what that does is that throws another unknown into the situation. What we do know is the stock market has been hit very hard. Now, you got to realize the stock market is it's a centrally traded platform, which lends to volatility. Is it overbought? Or it's certainly not overbought. Was it overbought before this? Maybe a little bit, maybe by 10%, who knows? But we're down, the Dow is down a good 30% right now. Is it oversold? I don't think we know that yet because we don't know how long this is going to go on. Speaking of volatility, the commodity markets have definitely been rocked. Oil prices down about 50% just in the past month or more. I think a barrel of oil yesterday closed at below $20 a barrel. It was at $50 a barrel, a little over $50 a barrel in around February 10th. You go back to November 2019, oil was over $75 a barrel. Now, why is it being priced like that? You got a worldwide slowdown economically. OPEC decided they wanted to cut production to raise the price, and the Russians, who are not a member of OPEC but are paid to be an observer, said, we're not cutting production, we're ramping it up. Russia probably doesn't have a fallback position. It's a commodity-based country. At that point, the Saudis said, if you're ramping it up, so are we. Now you got oil at about $19 and change. I will tell you this, oil prices in the foreseeable future, possibly another 6 to 12 months out, they're going to be very low unless there's a major disruption in the Middle East. So, what does all this mean? We don't know because we don't know how long this is going to last. If this lasts a protracted amount of time, the damage is going to be much more severe. If America can get back to work in a couple of weeks, hopefully the economy can repair itself. But because real estate is not traded on a centrally traded platform, it's a one-to-one transaction, it's going to take a while for this to happen. Now, unemployment has a direct relationship on home prices. If a lot of people in this unemployment rate spikes and stays up there for a sustained amount of time, you're going to see residential prices change dramatically and probably drop. Why? Residential real estate is a business of relational values. The price of your property has a direct relation to properties that match that in your immediate area. So, I hate to tell you this, but I think as we all are right now, we're in a wait-and-see time period. It really is dependent upon how long this whole situation lasts. So with that, I have to run out. If anyone has a quick question, maybe one or two, I can answer it. But
yeah, we can.
Those are my thoughts.
We want to go with the presentation, but if somebody has a question for Jerry, we can get your contact info. They can all get a hold of you right here, Jerry Ryan at crescentr.com. But Jerry, make one comment to the home building. Mm-hmm. You have in your madness.
You know what? Here's, home building. Okay, after the financial crisis, or after we got hit with the financial crisis in 08-09, home building virtually stopped because the banks were not lending. The banks had to get bailed out. We're not in that current situation right now. So we do need a lot of home construction here in California and coastal California. Look, I don't think the banks are going, or the home builders are going to be constrained like they were after the financial crisis. They're going to have to continue to build, but then again, home building is really dependent upon a lot of local regulations, and there's a battle at the state level because the state is trying to mandate how many single-family or multifamily units are built in each community. And the communities are saying it's our responsibility to decide that. So you really got a yin and yang situation going on there with home building. And, the home builders should not be in, the straits they were in 07, 08, 09, and into 2010. So,
Perfect, because that will lead us, I appreciate, Jerry, because that will lead us right into the ADU as the state now mandates that every city has to follow the state guidelines for ADUs. We're coming off not building enough homes, period, for the last 10 years since the crisis. So, Jerry, perfect. We'll hand over questions to you via email. Thank you.
All right. And I will send out my March update if anyone would like it. Lenska, just send them my email, and thank you for having me.
Okay. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mike, are you on the call? Are you on yet? So, Jerry made a very good point about why do we see rates go up to 5%? I had a call from a client when the Fed rate got cut to 0, and she said, I need to buy a house now. Mortgage rates are down to 0, but it ain't so. So, can you give us a little light on that subject?
Yeah, well, I can try.
Yes.
I think Meredith's going to have to mute her real quick because I'm getting a little bit of echo. Yeah, Jerry was completely right. I mean, there is such a disruption in the mortgage markets. It's the biggest disruption since we've seen in the, back to the financial crisis, for obviously a lot of different reasons to some extent, although really some of it's similar. It's a backup with the demand for credit and the capital markets and a capacity problem, I mean, on top of that. So when the treasuries dropped below 0.5%, the Monday before last, we were watching interest rates settle and lower, and then the entire planet tried to lock in and close the loan all at the same time, and that just completely short-circuited everything that was happening in the mortgage business. And so although the bond market was rallying and treasuries were lower, there was a complete decoupling of our pricing, mortgage interest rates, to the primary consumer compared to what was happening in the market. And so we started to see repricing all throughout that Monday and then throughout the week. And therein you got the separation. We literally were going south of 3% on a 30-year fixed rate. We were touching a 2.5 on a 15-year fixed rate, and then just went in the other direction. Now, there's a couple of really interesting things I think, kind of point out on this is that not every company has responded or reacted the same way, and there's been bigger swings with smaller companies, I think, although all of us have seen industry-wide interest rates going up when we really normally would expect them to go down. I know if I was just touching on where I was seeing pricing yesterday when the markets were closing, it is interesting. There's a separation between pricing depending on the loan programs, the purpose of the loan. So purchase loans are actually better priced right now than rate and term refinances, and differently than cash out refinances. And interesting too, we were doing on the topic of ADUs and renovation. I was actually working on some loan scenarios, seeing pricing on renovation loans better than cash out, which is really kind of fascinating. So there's really
normally
there are pockets of opportunities out there to borrow. There is a ton of volatility. Yesterday was on a conference call, and between the open and midday, there was a 3-point swing in the market in less than 3 or 4 hours. Now, that's a lot of volatility. So it's just, we can open and, rally and pick up 100 to 150 basis points, and then we can lose it in a blink of an eye.
So, Mike, we have some.
I think, again, as it relates to mortgages and this entire conversation, here's a couple of thoughts and a couple of takeaways for what it's worth. First, just hang in there. If you're applying for a loan, do everything you can to have that loan ready to close. And there are opportunities to get pricing breaks when you have a fully approved loan with an appraisal and you're closer to close. What nobody's really clear on is the pull-through rate. And again, we're talking about massive numbers. Year over year, the demand for refinances is up 850%.
Yeah.
Overall, our demand is up 1,000% year over year. It literally means last year, this time, we were taking 100 loan applications a day in our region, and now we're taking 1,000. And so there's a big stretch on capacity. And what that really means, again, is be as ready as you can if you're borrowing to close, and that's going to be your best opportunity to save. Second, there are, again, cash out and term refinances are being priced differently. One of the challenges with the markets are, hey, when I do a mortgage and I sell it to the secondary market, and then somebody turns around and refinances that, I just lost the money that I spent to buy that loan. And so you're seeing, again, a little bit of a credit crunch on the backside, and you're especially seeing this for jumbo loans too. Actually, a lot of investors have simply shut down purchasing. There's no buyers for jumbo mortgages, and so many, if not most, programs in the jumbo space, non-conforming.
Can you just explain the jumbo?
So you just want to be patient. Again, have your loan processed, have your appraisal complete, and be ready to close, and look for the opportunities when credit's available, and then hopefully when the market and the interest rates are settling. Again, purchase loans, you're seeing benefits on purchases. We're still pricing below 4% on purchase loans. ARMs make no sense at all. I haven't seen a fixed rate that isn't equal to or better than an ARM, at least right now. And then again, jumbo is a little bit dicey, and we're just going to have to wait and see when the dust settles what happens. The last thing is turn times. Turn times, as you can imagine, because there is a supply and demand issue not only on credit, but on capacity, is that a refinance, you're probably looking at 60 days, and that's on the plus side. I mean, some of the banks, I think Wells and Bank of America were estimating 120 days, even if they were locking in loans, and a lot of companies started to turn away from rate and term refinances entirely just because they can't handle it. But you would, at least what I'm seeing right now, we're about 60 days for a refinance, and that would include cash out. So if you're looking at a project like an ADU, you certainly want to get started and get that loan processed and approved so that you can have that money available when you're ready to build. But again, on 60 days is probably what you're looking at on refinances. On purchases, and again, we're doing a lot of renovation lending on purchases. We're still fortunately at about 30 days. We've segmented our pipeline so that purchase transactions are gaining a priority. And fortunately, too, in the refinance space, as much as we possibly can, cash out refinances for improvements or for investments or for renovation lending are still getting a priority as well. But again, it's just a capacity issue that we're all going to have to deal with for a while. And again, the long and short of it, I don't want to speculate either entirely, except for to say that most of the conversations that I've been on conference calls have a general optimism about kind of the dust settling, interest rates returning more to the normal relative to the markets over the next few weeks. And again, maybe that next few weeks, I mean, might be 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I'm not sure about that, but most people are fairly certain, if they were placing bets out there, that the market will return to some normalcy, and we'll see some settling back out with interest rates, especially as this initial wave of demand gets processed, and then there's more space in the mortgage industry anyways. So I'm optimistic about that. And term two, what Jerry was sharing with some of the things with the economy. Again, in a normal market, bad news for the economy is good news for interest rates. And again, as we process this capacity, I think naturally we'll see some of those factors favor lower interest rates and I think we'll be in good shape. So hopefully that helps out. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay. Can you hear me? So can you hear me, Mike? So it looks like I am muted.
We can hear you, Lenska.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So just for our listeners, you're saying be careful with the turnaround time. It will take a little bit of a time for cash refis and for purchase loans.
Yeah, it's going to take longer on cash out refinances and rate terms. And plan on 50 days, get everything in. We're still, for the most part, closing our purchase loans in 30 days, which I think is remarkable. There's certainly opportunities to rush if necessary, but yeah, you're going to want to plan for a little bit extra time out there right now.
And you said something really good about, I think going back in history, we have never had a recession or a case where we had a supply and a demand problem. So that's why you see that volatility, because it's like Jerry calls it a yin and yang. So, but I thought I'm giving maybe people a little bit of good news about this is I pulled that off yesterday. There's a California median price versus the unemployment. When you guys look in the 80s, we actually had the unemployment go up, but we also had the median home price go up. So it doesn't necessarily say that if we spike in unemployment that we will see a crash. But what you can see is that there is a delay in maybe the median home price is going down. So this will be very interesting. We're in uncharted territory. And also this chart is looking at the California interest rates versus the California unemployment. So obviously, I would say let's take that last recession out because it was really manufactured, right? But historically, interest rates could go up, even so we can see that we have a higher unemployment. So, but right now we have a lot of federal help and interest rates. I call it manipulation, but it will be very interesting. So, Mike, do you have anything else you want to maybe say?
No, I think that
Okay.
like your charts too, by the way, that you're right. I think ultimately rates will be just okay, and ultimately I think they'll help the market move forward in real estate.
And just to set the stage, we have been coming from such a strong economy and strong job market and strong real estate market. And what I like about real estate is really it doesn't go down 30% in 3 weeks. And that's what the stock market does. So right now you always can live in your house and in your ADU. What I'm as a real estate agent totally excited that people are going to work from home and they actually realize they need an office and they need a bigger house. So I'm getting ready for people calling me, or like we all are on the call for, that people might say, hey, we'll hunker down and it's better to have family close by. So I hope I will do a fairly good job in recapping the ADU laws, and hopefully Chris will chime in. So on SDCIA had a really great event on February 22nd, and we have a lot of video footage, by the way, which I'm still editing and putting online. So we had this is our board member, Dan, and we had the Senator Wajkowski, who is the architect, that is our president. This is me all dressed up. And this is Greg Nicholas, who I'm going to use his slides to recap the ADU rules. And he's the housing analyst for HCD. And then Aaron Norris with the Norris Group, who did a fantastic job of emceeing it for us. So this is his information, so write this down. If you're listening, Greg Nicholas, if you have any questions or you need review help or something, please send it to adu@hcd.ca.gov, or you can email him. You get quicker help here because there's several people working on that, and then Greg Nicholas at hcd.ca.gov. So there actually were ADU laws out since 1982. Then in 2018 we had changes, or 17 we had changes, and then obviously the major changes were really in January 2020, where it was mandated by the state that all the cities were supposed to have ordinances and rules on ADUs. So the major change in 2020 was about junior ADUs, and Chris from Rule and Design Group will make points to that. This is really my favorite part of the whole ADU law, because you can build within the structure of within your house. You can carve out an area to make it a junior ADU, which means your construction costs are much lower. So then also there were limitations to put an ADU or JADU in there. You could actually not do it if you were within HOA. So that also got changed in 2020. So really, if you put in an application under the old rules or last year, you still have to abide by it. This is how I understood. So these are all the various bill numbers, and there's a little bit of confusion here about ADUs for sale. I think we need to change this wording, because it is only for non-profit companies. They have a chance to kind of separate the ADU, but it is not for any investors or homeowners. It would be nice, but so here are the major changes. So there are ADUs are exempt from impact fees when under 750 square foot, or if there are bigger, then it should be charged proportionally to the size of the ADU compared to the primary dwelling. So then they also define an accessory structure. Is it a barn? Is it a pool house? Is it what else? I mean, we have garages, obviously. So they all can be converted to an ADU. You see that a lot of in Ramona, they have a lot of various structures on their huge lots. So some of the cities were limiting the size of the lot. That you couldn't do an ADU if you, for example, didn't have 12,000 square feet. So this all has changed. So there is no minimum lot sizes. We just made an offer on a 3,500 square foot lot, and we went down to the city, and the city said to us we can put as square footage on there times 0.75. So we could build up to 2,600 square feet. I don't have the exact number, but that's practically what the city in San Diego says. So no standards for lot coverage. So they each city will have a little bit of different lots coverage rules. So limitations for maximum unit size caps. Chris, are you still on the phone? Can I hear you?
Yes. Yeah. So the limitations basically come down to municipalities last year and previously were limiting the maximum size of the ADU. The state law says the maximum size is 1,200 square feet if you're detached. And we were seeing places like Del Mar and Carlsbad limiting the size. For instance, Del Mar limited to 550 square feet detached. So the new law basically says you cannot allow that. You must allow at least an 850 square foot for a studio or one bedroom, and then up to 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet is the max.
Yeah, and I believe there are limitations on bedrooms and obviously junior ADU or the ADU. So because every city is a little different, they all should abide by the state rules, but I always recommend working with obviously somebody like Chris together. Actually, this is the summary of changes for the parking. So the maximum ADU parking requirements are 1 space per ADU, unless exempt, such as within walking distance to public transit. So do I understand that right? If you're living here and you have to go 2 miles around the freeway to the bus stop, that does not qualify because this,
Correct.
if you could jump the freeway, then you would be within half a mile. So it is actually walking distance. So they clarified that as well in this new set of rules, okay? So the replacement parking for the primary structure may not be required on the lot when covered parking is displaced to create an ADU. Also, off-street parking is allowed to be tandem or in setback area. So I like that a lot because quite often you have a lot of frontage on the home, so you can create or pour some concrete and create parking spaces, right?
Yes.
Parking is not required for a junior accessory dwelling unit, and that reason is pretty clear because you are only converting space within your structure, within your already existing walls, okay? So here, the ADUs or junior ADUs created within existing structures. So that is really one of the biggest changes in 2020, that you have no local zoning or development standards are permitted. So obviously there is no architectural review, there's no height limitation and nothing because you already have the structure, right? There's also no fire sprinklers required and no connection or capacity fees because it's within the structures. So there are applicable standards as in, help me out, Chris, complies with local building codes and detached dwellings. As I understand, you still have to abide by the safety and fire codes, right?
Absolutely. The biggest thing with the junior ADU is to basically take a portion of an existing home or an attached garage and convert it. The advantage is if you have an attached garage, you can create the attached garage into your junior unit and then also create a detached ADU. So then you can have 2 rentable units on your property.
Okay.
The JADU does have some limitations, especially on owner occupancy. If you have a junior ADU, the property must be owner occupied. That does not apply if it is an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, and very, very good that you mentioned that. I put this on my little note sheet not to forget to tell people because, you know, we investors get carried away. We said, oh, we can triplex our house and rent it all out and have a huge cash flow. So it ain't so, but we also want to tell people if you do have because of the size limitations, the maximum size for an ADU is 1,200 square feet. But if you do have a 1,500 square feet garage, there is no size limitation. You are able to convert the $1,500 square foot garage to an ADU.
It's still the 1,200 max, so we can create storage for that extra space.
No, actually, I looked at the video again that Greg Nicholas said, and I made a point of putting this one. So in an existing structure, there is no size limitation.
And things are rapidly changing, especially with the new laws.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, and also the junior ADU, we want to let people know it has to have an exterior entrance, right? But you can share the bathroom with the main house. Let me see if I have it somewhere in here. So, there are actually here the total area floor space for a new detached accessory dwelling unit is not to exceed 1,200. So this is for your new construction, but no limitations on the size of the if created within the space of the existing structure. So there it is with hopefully your barn, your pool house, or your, I mean, if you have a pool house that's 1,500 square feet, I don't think you need to turn it into an ADU. Hopefully not everybody has seen Arnold Schwarzenegger's terrible YouTube video sitting in his jacuzzi and smoking a big cigar and telling us to stay home. I mean, if I had a home like this, I would love to stay home. So back to ADUs. So also the city are supposed to approve your plans within 60 days. And local agencies may be less restrictive than ADU statutes. So maybe you want to go down to the city of San Diego and say, hey, you know, I'm not living in it. Can I still add a junior ADU? So we haven't pushed the limits yet, but we always like to do. Also, one of the new laws is that you can add ADU to an existing multi-family dwelling unit. And again, there are percentages that apply, and also lot coverages as limitations, as much as I understood that. So I think we went, do you see any points on that slide that you want to stress?
Just the ideal situation for the junior ADU is empty nesters. If they have a 3-4 bedroom home, the kids go off to college, they can take one of the existing bedrooms, we can add a bathroom or share a bathroom and create a rentable unit for them. That's, you know, the ideal situation where you have a bigger home with multiple bedrooms or an attached garage. Again, 500 square feet maximum size, you can add a kitchen, and it's a legally rentable unit for you, for the owner.
Yeah, and
I did think it was interesting though that Greg Nicholas was acknowledged that you could stage a loan. You could convert a garage, and then you could you could add another permit to convert that to an ADU.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he made the example of if you have a duplex, you can ideally end up with 5 units, as in adding an ADU and adding a junior ADU. So I assume the sky is the limit somehow, but also obviously inefficient for the junior ADU, an efficiency kitchen is required, but a shared bathroom is allowed, okay? And also just to say, because I had that discussion with Chris about the maximum size for a junior ADU. So a junior ADU is under 500, but if it's over 500, it automatically becomes an ADU, which means you have to have full cooking, full kitchen with appliances, a bath, and an outside entry.
Sylvia is asking that we heard more liberal laws will be added next year in San Diego. Can you speak to that?
I have not heard nothing. There is only what he said on the video that they will fine-tune or clarify a few, like, remember how the whole thing came down about parking and being in near transportation, so now they determine it's walking distance. So that's, yeah, please stay tuned. Once I upload the videos, it's really interesting. I've watched the video 3 times, and I always pick up something new. So I'm glad SDCIA was able to record those videos. I don't think there will be any changes, and guess what? This crisis and the coronavirus is going to probably delay a lot of things, okay? So, but here's his information, and also, hopefully Mike is on the phone because he's next. If not, I'm going to take it. So this is the information, but also best practices, and this is a very good resource site, and that's also the website. So Hopefully you guys did a screenshot maybe and copied that information so you have it handy instead of calling me or Chris. Even so, we love to talk to you. And
still give me a call.
yes. Okay. All right. So now we're in a scenario 1, 391315 Sheridan Place in Carlsbad, which is a project by Mike Moore, who is the GC, the general contractor on it. And I'm not sure, Meredith, did he have a chance to dial in?
Lenska, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Okay, you're on. So then let me introduce Mike. Mike has 25 years of experience in residential, multifamily, and commercial construction. He's a licensed California contractor and LED contractor as well. So Mike is obviously the president of Moore Construction. And I have to tell you, I visited his site and I was so impressed because I always look how the construction site is organized. And that's kind of how I know if it's a good contractor. So I was totally impressed, Mike, seeing your construction site last week. So, and he handles all aspects of pre-construction and construction and ADUs. He also does builds single-family homes and does tenant improvements and site improvements. So you build large homes and small homes, and I think we have a site. And I just wanted to kind of get you guys also used to look at those aerials, because sometimes you can see what is the lot density. So not because all the other homes or lots are built out practically with a lot of lot coverage, but you can kind of get an idea how dense it can be. So this is the lot Mike is building, and so we're going to play a little video. And maybe, Mike, while I pull up that video, just add some more to the whatever I said.
Sure. The ADU market is quickly becoming a larger sector for home builders like me for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is just the densification, especially along the coast. Not a lot of land left to build on. So we seem to be building more and more of these ADUs. And there's really two groups of people that we seem to be building the ADUs for. One is the, I'll call them grandparents in this case, where they want to move in, have multi-generational living with their kids and their grandkids. And we've gone through projects for those type of clients where it's very customized. It's almost a small custom home, if you will. And I would say there's a lot more emotion involved, a lot more concern over the exact finishes and the exact layout of the home and so on and so forth. The other pool that we work with, and it's a little bit larger, is the investment pool. And sometimes those folks are owner-occupants. They own the primary residence and they're looking for some passive income. Oftentimes it's landlords who own a single-family property and are also looking for some passive income. And those folks, we have more of a tailored program where we can offer a stock set of plans to them, which saves a lot of money not having to go and do a full custom design on the home. This pool of folks seems to be more interested in get me a structure, a simple box in the yard that looks good, will attract renters, will attract a high dollar rent, and they're more concerned with simply a return on their investment. What we have been seeing along those lines is a pretty good return. Most of these folks, for the cost that we can build and where we're building a lot of these, which generally seems to be along that 5 corridor along the coast, we're seeing returns cash on cash of 15, 20, sometimes north of 25%, depending upon how much they're getting in rent and the cost to build. And so we've become hyper-focused on trying to work with these folks, streamline this process, build quicker and build more efficiently, and quite frankly, build at a lower price point than most of our competition out there.
Okay, good. I promised everybody we're doing, first of all, I don't like the word social distancing. I like the word physical distancing because I think we're pretty social right now. And to have you sit at home and let's enjoy and see Mike's construction site. All right. So that was the exterior. And we're going to, Mike, if you are still on there, while I'm pulling up the interior of the ADU, maybe you can enlighten us how the plan check and everything else went with the city of Carlsbad.
Sure. Just FYI, Lenska, I didn't get any audio when I watched that video. I'm not sure if I was the only one. But as far as the plan check process goes, it's more or less in line with anything that we would see for a custom home. There's no expedited process by which they check or approve these plans. There are some cities, Encinitas being, I think, the first one to roll it out. County of San Diego also has some plans that they call them pre-approved plans, and really all that they are open source plans. There's nothing pre-approved about them. Inevitably, even if you use one of their open source free plans, there's still about 25% of the plans left to complete because we need to tailor them to each site, show a site plan, utility connections. And when we submit these plans, whether it's a full custom home, whether it's a stock set of plans from the city or the county, or it's a stock set of plans that we provide, we're seeing that it usually is taking about 30, maybe 45 days to get initial comments back. And then we're resubmitting usually about a week, 10 days, and seeing another turnaround of, 15, 20, maybe as many as 30 days. And that really seems to be on par with of what we've traditionally seen for custom homes. So unfortunately, as much as the cities want to push these and they want them to be built, there doesn't seem to be any greater efficiency or ease with their move through the city plan check process.
So hopefully with the people that are filing for unemployment, maybe the cities can hire a few more people to expedite it. So let's take a look inside. And I know you couldn't hear the audio, but I got feedback from the back end that other people could hear the video. So any feedback is appreciated, because also email me to lenskab@gmail.com about anything we can improve on the webinar. As I mentioned, this is my first one, and you probably notice I have an accent. It's a German accent. I strive for perfection, so because this will not be the last webinar. So here we go. All right, so now we're at the main entrance. Mike, why don't you, while I get back to the, to my screen, with the, oh, wow, hey, for the first time, I wish you guys could applaud me. I think for the first time, doing webinar for the first time, I'm not doing too bad with the technology. And just when I said, here we go. Here are the project details. They purchased the lot for $200,000. By the way, it was listed for $300,000. Meredith, I hope you have me unmuted. Mike, are you still there?
I am.
Okay. So the new construction home and the ADU, and I saw a question come through, how much does it cost? And I think we were talking, it's very hard to put a dollar per square foot on there, but we were just saying that construction cost, if you're doing it, and Mike, jump in because I think people rather hear it from you than from me. So we could build $200 per square foot, but obviously if it's a small unit, it goes up tremendously.
Yeah, correct. The challenge, it's very easy to talk dollars per square foot when we're talking new home construction. Typically a new home in coastal San Diego is going to be 2,500, 3,000 feet. And so that $200 a square foot number as a starting point is fairly uniform across the board. The problem when we get into accessory dwelling units is sometimes we're building 1,200 square foot units, which are, tract homes that we see around town built in the 60s and 70s are that big. But sometimes we're building ones like in the video, which is under 500 square feet. And whether we're building a custom home or a 1,200 square foot ADU or a 450 square foot ADU, they all have to have a kitchen. They all have to have a full bath and maybe a half a bath. And those are very price intense components to the home. So when we start to look at it on a dollar per square foot basis, trying to amortize the overall construction cost across a smaller square foot, you obviously start to see this dollar per square foot price jump up. So it's almost easier to look at ADUs as a price per bedroom as well as a price per square foot. But unfortunately, try as we might, we can't seem to get the dollar per square foot for the ADU quite as low as we can for a custom home. That being said, the price point that we are building at is geared towards the investor, is geared towards a quick, efficient build, trying to keep the costs down, trying to keep the time frame down, and some of the design elements that we can include, which would be a more basic design as opposed to some more custom stuff, allows us to keep that price point, I think, about as low as can be found in San Diego County. So that's kind of the pricing in a nutshell, but it really is equally relevant to look at these things sort of on a bedroom or even more of a holistic basis.
Mike, as mortgage lenders, we're obviously not in the construction business, but what we do see is contractor bids come across our desk all the time. And that is exactly on the mark because you're putting an entire house on a postage stamp. And what's interesting to watch is almost no matter what size the property is, where it's 600 square feet detached or 1,200 square feet, it seems to always land right about this number you have.
Good.
And I think this is where it died off yesterday at midnight. We didn't determine the rental income, but we were saying about probably $2,200 to $2,400 as rental income. And the cost of the ADU, because you build it at the same time, was $120,000. So I always like to also look at, do you get your return on investment or your return off investment? So your return off investment, so if you would calculate the $2,400 or call it $2,500, the math is easier. So you have $30,000 income. So in 4 years, you practically have your return on the investment and off the investment, and so you can calculate your return. Now, thankfully, they were all cash, right? They didn't have a mortgage loan on it. And actually, Mike, you want to close us out on this one? Because I think I'm moving on to the scenario 2.
Sure, absolutely. Appreciate the time. My information, I think Lenska has. If anybody would like to reach out, I'm happy to provide more information. Our typical process is just an initial consultation we can do over the phone, jump on a quick Google map, kind of look at your property and give you some rough ideas as to cost and feasibility. And from there, we can make a site visit and really dive into cost specifics and put a formal proposal in front of you. That proposal would include the entire package, soup to nuts, from the very initial sketch all the way to handing you a key at the end of the project. But that being said, to your point, Lenska, the market is ever increasing for investors on these things because, case in point with this one, this ADU, if we were building it in the backyard of an existing home, would probably run somewhere in that, $225,000, $250 price point, and you're grossing out at $30,000, $25,000, something like that a year. These things almost sell themselves. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, that was a good close. I tried to pull up your information. Obviously, I noted to myself to add a slide to the presentation. So now we go from new construction to the scenario 2 at 4153 through 55 Gammer Street in San Diego. Doesn't it look very similar? It's just that it is in a neighborhood where the median home price is 40% of that what it is in Carlsbad. So the project details were that it was purchased 1999 at a trustee sale. Yes, back in the heydays for investors. For all cash, about nearly $70,000. The main house is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And it is about 1,016 square feet, built in 1941. So the lot size is 50 by 100 feet, about 7,000. But it is also zoned R2. So the construction cost on this one is about $120,000. It was $244 per square foot. We are in 92113 zip code. So construction 90 days, that probably is going to be a little bit delayed as well, but also financing was cash. So he bought it for cash. I assume this is actually Ward Hannigan's property, so I got the pleasure of touring. I didn't do a video back then, but so here we go. And again, look at the aerial. This is the backyard here. And you see how dense some of the other, and every time remember, these might not be all permitted structures, right? So in San Diego, I think every other property has unpermitted square footage. So we see the side and the back and the front entrance. So this is a floor plan. You enter into the living room, very similar to actually the floor plan we have seen up with Mike. We have the kitchen. So we do miss a washer and dryer, which I was told is going to be added. So they obviously, to just note, they have a tankless water heater, which saves obviously room. We have the bedroom here, and the access to the bathroom is right here. And they have great closet space, so very functional and efficient floor plan. I think probably if Chris is still on the call, she probably can chime in that there are efficient floor plans. So this one does not have 10-foot ceilings, okay? But here are the financials. The home was purchased for $70,000, then the rental income of the main house is $2,000. So these are numbers, but like we always say, it depends. So this particular investor has the tenant pay for all trash, water, electricity. He does not have a garbage disposal. He does not have a dishwasher. So practically his maintenance costs are also pretty low. So the ADU construction was $120, okay? He is renting it to Section 8 people, tenants, at $1,200. So how do we calculate the ROI? So we have 12 times the $1,200 makes it to $14,400. The construction costs were $120, so we're dividing it and taking it times 100. So we come up to about 12%. So didn't we just say the stock market lost 30% in 3 weeks? So how about a nice solid return of 12% on something actually that has value and as brand new construction? So you can spin that out. Now, this is obviously a cash-on-cash return, right? Because it's all done with cash. So if you now take the entire property, it brings it actually up to 17.5%. I haven't seen these numbers in San Diego, but remember he purchased the house 1999 for $70,000.
Construction costs 1 point.
Millennials on the calls, you know, this might be a good opportunity for millennials to buy something, because in 30 years, or we are not even 30 yet, it was bought 1999, right? So we even have 20 years, and look where we are with the prices. So where are the prices? So here are some project comps that what sold, which in 4 days with FHA financing, and for $395,000. So it had a one single family home with an ADU with 2 separate entrances. The main house has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and the ADU has 1 bed and 1 bath. But as the pictures show, it was probably more a fixer. Actually, I didn't put the pictures in, so it was more like a fixer. Then we have a nice other comp, amazing 1915 craftsman. So this is all about, and Meredith probably will chime into it, the appraisal world is still a little bit out on vacation on these ADUs, and for them it's all about comps. So it's up to you or your real estate agent to find those comps and prove the value. Okay, so this came with a huge greenhouse. I'm wondering what they were growing there. Detached bedroom and office loft. So convert to full ADU. By the way, you see a lot of listings in the MLS right now that talk about ADU potential. So potential and how to maybe see those potentials. Please call me and go and look at some properties if you're interested in buying some real estate, and see if it does have ADU potential. So this one had potential. It was, remember the scenario 2, we had the main house had about 900 square feet and 490 square feet were added on. So we kind of ended up at 1,300, so this is probably a much better comp. But it didn't really have a full ADU, okay? So I would put the current value of our scenario 2 house, Gamma Street, at $525. So now look how the numbers change if you would buy it today at $525. The main house still rents for $2,000. The ADU still rents for $1,200. You might fix up the main house and get some more rental, but then it's more out of pocket. And so doing the math, taking that one, so that $10,000, what is that $10,000? That $10,000 are the expenses. These are not the mortgage, these are just the property tax, because you have about $5,500 property tax, And if you use some property management or you pay some utilities, and save up for some maintenance. A lot of time investors do the wrong thing and just calculate the cash flow just with what's going out, but you're always supposed to put some money aside for fixing up the kitchen, repairing the roofs, all the more capital expenses. So that's why I'm putting that $10,000 in here, divided by the purchase price. Still, for San Diego to have a 5.4% return is pretty good. Again, what did the stock market do? Did this 5.5% change overnight? No, it didn't. Okay? So, by the way, did rents go down in the last crisis? They did not. So, I think real estate is a safe haven right now, and it is money well invested. So, now, Meredith, are you listening? Finally, I talk loan. So, $420,000 purchase price, $525 is 20% down. So, if you have $105,000 putting it down, so now we're dividing, same thing, but we're deducting mortgage of $24,000, and that's just an estimate. Okay, so your ROI is actually less than 1%. But your cash-on-cash return, because you're only putting in $105,000, right, is still 4.2%. Is that a safe investment? Yes.
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 Lenska, I was...
Don't say it, even if you're screaming in front of your computer. Yes, yes, yes.
As I got super excited. I was actually trying to catch up with the comparison right there for you. But no, I think it's a great investment. What I really appreciate, which I think is different personally on the ADUs, where you're monetizing oftentimes somebody's primary residence. And I mean, it's like a multiplier effect. I mean, I love talking about the cap rates and the return on the investment that isn't really a part of, traditional, lending in terms of when we're talking about, your owner-occupied property. So that said, we had a couple of different things. A real easy number maybe for people to use right now, and it's not perfect. It depends on obviously interest rates, but at about 3.5%, you're looking at $4.50 per thousand is what you're looking at. So
say that again for me as a slow person.
Sure. Yeah. It's about $4.50 for every thousand you borrow.
Yeah.
So at 100,000 you're at $4.50. At 200,000 you're at $900. At 300,000 you're at $13.50. And that's a pretty good way to factor that out. And obviously we're not even taking into account mortgage interest deductions, which certainly give you a little bit better return on the investment there as well. So
yeah.
Helpful?
Perfect. And so now we're at the project cash flow. And please all stay tuned. I'm not going to go into all the math problems and calculations on every property. So this one is practically, I want to explain that obviously your return, your ROI is different from the project cash flow, right? So your cash flow looks different because you still have the rental income, you have your property tax, your water, trash, your maintenance, okay, which means you would have $2,800 monthly cash flow if you don't have a mortgage. So now if you have your mortgage and you're 20% down, and I calculate for 4% because it's not owner occupied. So I think, Mike, do we still get hit on the mortgage for non-owner occupied?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can still do investment properties, and you probably you're a little bit north of 4% on a rental property or a non-owner occupied home right now. Like I said, we're just slightly under 4% for a 30-year fixed rate primary residence. Probably about 4.5, 4.75, at least what I was seeing from Friday on a non-owner occupied loan.
Yeah,
but that's in the middle of a crisis. We do have a question. Are the utilities metered separately from the main home? And that's a question for both Chris and Mike.
Yes. I know for sure I answer both questions with one word, yes. There will be a sub-meter put in into the Carlsbad.
Except that, just so you know, in mortgage guidelines, we can't have separate utilities and addresses, so your contractor bid is going to matter if you're doing a mortgage. It's not that big a deal. You just ask the contractor to revise the bid. But yeah, and I think different cities are saying different things, so just be cautious with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do not have to separate the utilities. You can share the water meter, gas, and electric meters, but you will get a separate address.
Okay, perfect.
A couple of
Don't
clients,
you love it with all our star power?
a couple of clients,
all the
especially
answers
that's
you're
owner
getting?
occupied, are doing solar and charging their renters for the entire property's electricity.
Okay, yes, actually, I think, to solar, we have, once Hennish is going to talk to us, I was very impressed by his project and how he utilized the solar to bring down the utility costs. So 2,800 cash flow if you have a mortgage, since we have property tax in here, you still have cash flow of 800. Hey, if I had 10 houses like this, I could live off those $8,000 and stay at home. Okay, I think we covered that one, Mike, right? So we always say that you need to see if it's worthwhile building an ADU and what your return of investment is. But that's for listeners, how to pay for your ADU. Meredith, you want to take that?
Yeah, and we can quickly move through to Hennish because we're running out of time. But you get the idea. We can do construction loans on residential that's based on future appraised value, which is a great option for starting investors.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to just advance that to scenario 3 because I really want to hear it because of the vacation rental aspect of that scenario 3, which is on 1145 Emerald Street in San Diego. And with that one, we'll welcome Hennish Polical of the California Home Company. And here's his information. Speaking of virtual presentations, so everybody needs to know what a Matterport is, okay? And do we have you on, Hennish?
Yeah, I'm here.
Clearing his throat, he is getting ready. So I should be able to click on it, and it has no audio, so please do not. Hennish, take it from there.
Great. Well, yeah, I mean, so you're seeing it on the screen, but it's also behind me. I'm in the same exact unit. I had renters that just moved out on Saturday back to Norway because of the coronavirus, recalled them back to their country. So I've got a vacant and clean unit that I'm using as my office, and all my family's in my front house that's on the other side of this property. So this is effectively was a 2-car garage with a second story and a rooftop that, if you see the stairs, it goes up to the roof. And that's my house in front. It's got solar panels on it now, and then those stairs go up to the rooftop. And maybe we have some up there. I don't know if the virtual tour goes all the way to the roof or not because Matterport doesn't work so great outside. But it does have a rooftop with views of downtown and the bay and the ocean as well, which is pretty cool. I've got and it adds for extra living space. So when we have people here, it's a smaller unit. It's 875 square feet. So about 400 on the bottom level, 400 in the middle level, and then another 400 on the roof, which in California is nice usable space, especially with the heat lamp and solar shade and stuff like that, and string lights. And that what you saw over there was the driveway. It's a detached unit. It's on my alley, so when guests come, they can open the gate, drive their car in, park it, and there's a door there. So it's basically like a standalone unit. We've got spiral staircase going down to the first floor, and since the first floor was a garage at one point, it's got 10-foot ceilings. So we worked hard to make the layout as most logical as possible. So nice bathroom, and tiled it out and made it really good. And we built custom bunk beds in one of the bedrooms. They're queen size, which is pretty unique, so it makes it so you can actually have nice full-size beds there for people. Our first guests were from England. It was a family with 4 kids. It worked out perfect. So mom and dad stayed in the master bedroom, and all 4 kids were able to comfortably sleep in there. And I watched them take my beach carts and boogie boards and volleyballs to the beach, which is just 2,000 feet away, every day for a week, and they loved it. They had a great experience here. So I technically, and Chris will berate me on this, technically ADUs are not allowed for vacation rentals, but in the city of San Diego, our mayor has said that they're not enforcing any vacation rental rules. And I wanted to do it this way partly because I wanted to be able to give my rental for family and friends when they come and visit. So whenever I know they're coming, I can block it off and they can stay for a weekend or a week and have their own private space. So it worked out well for me. I do take longer monthly rentals. I had just signed a 6-month rental with their prior guests until they had to move early because it is furnished. It's got all the utilities paid for, so it's really perfect for like travel nurses or grad students or business people that might travel and need more than a month or 2 at a time. They can just come with their clothes and move in. So the numbers are working out pretty well in this. In my typical presentation, if some of you have seen it before, I'd like to get into the tax strategies too, because once you can do the same strategies that the professionals use in terms of cost segregation and accelerated depreciation, these numbers get a lot more compelling than what we've been sharing. So definitely consult your tax strategy person, especially an enrolled agent that knows about cost segregation, because this can look a lot better. So yeah, my place is renting from anywhere from $170 to $370 a night for the whole space. Keep in mind, I'm in a kind of a premium location pretty close to the beach and PB's Garnett Avenue, so we've got all that. But you can kind of see where we're at here with these numbers. I don't need to just kind of read them out loud, but I do pay a management company. I'm busy with my own businesses and families that I don't want to do guest check-in and check-out, so I pay a local management company that does a great job. They're very hands-off. They just take care of things anywhere from booking and posting on 41 different websites and maintenance and cleaning and telling me whenever they need an upgrade or et cetera, et cetera. So they charge their fee. We pay the hotel tax, and I'm still making a pretty good return on this structure that I've got back here in my back house.
Yeah, and so the beauty, again, we had an existing structure which he converted. So on a high end, we just said, hey, let's plug in 60,000. I personally put an ADU into my junior ADU in my house, and it only cost me 30,000. So that is why you see this great return, right? And what I love, the return of your investment, 14 months, you recoup your 60,000, okay? Throw in a mortgage payment on your main residence of $5,800. Let's assume you would live there, and you have your $4,300 a month income, which is 52 divided by 12. So you would practically live for $1,500. So how would you like to live 4 blocks from the beach for $1,500?
And that's exactly right. I mean, I knew that the only way I could afford a property here is if I had an ADU or a guest house that I could rent, because even a cheap house in PB is $1 million. And so that can be expensive. But now with me house hacking a little bit and renting out my back house, it's able to allow my family to live here pretty affordably in PB.
And I love the flexibility. I mean, we all have hunkering down in the crisis, right? So actually, the whole message from this crisis is our house became our safe haven where we now have to spend the next 2 weeks. So hopefully people make note of it. And sorry, Meredith, you're getting cut out. But here's the information, what you need to apply for a mortgage with Loan Depot, so please give them a chance. They have great information and technology. As you guys noticed, she's helping us out with that. And we're going to push through scenario 4, 20th Street in Sherman Heights. 988 square foot, the basement ADU. So I was all excited when she told me basement, because how often do we have space that we don't think of a living space, but it takes a pro like Chris with the Ruland Design Group to make this. And look at those pictures. Amazing. This is Chris's information. Note it down. We'll have it later. And take it from here.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And please, utmost importance, be safe. And I'm glad we can do this as a live webinar. I wanted to focus today on a project that was using existing space. You know, a lot of people look at ADUs to be like, oh my God, I have to create this brand new unit, or I have to do some major construction. This was a home that was on a hillside in Sherman Heights. And with our team, we're able to address existing structures. This was a historical home from the early 1920s. And the basement, when I first went into it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is very scary. I was like, do you have any dead bodies down here? It was very underutilized space. And a lot of what I want to talk about today is how to create basically money from existing space, underutilized space, unpermitted spaces, you know, different options. You know, with our team, just to highlight, we're still pushing forward. We are all remote. We've always been remote, and we're still, you know, working with the building department. The building department is still open. They're modifying how they're doing their hours. And a lot of clients right now are like, oh my God, I could really use some rental income right now. So we're moving ahead, and we actually signed and started 5 projects just this past week. So the opportunity is there. Lenska gave us a great update from the new state laws in terms of the junior ADU and also the ADU. And then multifamily is a huge option as well to add more opportunities for investors. This particular example, it was a basement. It was just random storage. It had, you know, a water and bathroom sort of set up down there. And what we were able to do was create a bedroom, 1-bedroom unit. You see the den over there. The den was not created as a bedroom because, again, this is on a hillside. So we could not have a window because of the hill in the den that was big enough and safe for fire egress. So that became a den, which is not a sleeping area. And we were able to take advantage of the space, work with the building department on the historical significance of the home, still got that pass through. And with this is now the homeowner can go back and forth. She Airbnbs the top portion of her house and lives in the bottom portion. So with that, it gives you the flexibility to be able to take advantage of the basement. Also, another great opportunity for a quick project is to look at detached garages, attached garages, those unpermitted spaces. Again, we can take the existing structure and create a 1-bedroom unit out of a 2-car garage, gives you great rental opportunity. This particular project here, you're seeing some of the pictures. It's done very, very cute. Still has lots of light, even though it was a basement on a hillside. And the construction cost was about $70,000 to $75,000. So able to a quicker way. It was basically all interior framing. There was no exterior changes other than adding an exterior door and changing a couple of the windows. Other than that, it was a way to create, you know, a money earning income opportunity out of the basement. And one of the things that is possible, again, for quickness, because, you know, we're kind of in a little bit of a crisis mode right now. No one really knows what's going to happen, but there's still opportunity for the more straightforward projects to do over-the-counter processing to get those permits faster. And especially if you have some existing space, unpermitted spaces, we can get those converted. You know, our team, we have over 65 ADU projects, and we can address your needs. And we also offer a free site visit. So we can come out to your home for a free site visit or a virtual site visit, which is what we've been doing this week, walk through the property with you and figure out how we can get you some either room for your family or some cash coming in quickly. And I know we're running a little out of time, so I just kind of wanted to give you, some examples there. And again, our team at Ruin Design Group all wishes you, to be safe, and we're here to help you and your family. Lenska, I lost your audio.
So, did you have to do any excavation or anything on the basement?
This excavation, there was no excavation. If you look, if you go back up 2 pages to the floor plan shows the laundry area. That little door that you see over to the side is the below house kind of grade. So that there is just unfinished below house, footings and pier footings and so forth. This was an existing basement. It was just filled with basically junk and random storage.
Oh, good. I love converting junk to some money.
Junk to money.
I appreciate it so much, everybody. I can't believe it. We got through. And so we have, thank you for attending and hanging in there. Hopefully it will be all recorded. So, Meredith, if you're still on, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do, and it is being recorded. We will send out these materials, including the videos. And a couple questions. As of 2020, I heard that solar is required for new ADU units. True, false? How does that affect the cost for the main home, JADU, and ADU?
Sure, I can address the solar question. So 2020 was a change in the building code, including the energy code. And the requirement is if you build a new detached unit, you must add solar. But what you can do is if you convert your garage, if you add an ADU and attach to an existing structure, either attach to a garage, go above a garage, attach it to the existing home, you do not have to add solar. So there's still ways to work around the solar requirement if someone is trying to be a little bit more cash conscious, because solar can be quite expensive. So we've created one unit that wanted to be detached, but we attached it to the back of a garage and then did not have to worry about solar.
Even so, if Hanish is still on, because the utility cost, for a house is now SDG&E's rates are going up and up and up. So you will have costs between $300 and $500. So solar actually does make some sense to me now. If, back 3-4 years ago where rates were lower, it wasn't. But since we talk about SDG&E, Chris, is it still true that SDG&E is, so if you need a panel upgrade or even a new electrical meter, all my home builder clients, they're set back because it takes 4 months for SDG&E to come out?
SDG&E, their wheels move slowly. And what you really want to do is get with SDG&E right up front quickly. And that's where we reach out to the utilities to make sure that they are engaged, they get a project number so that you can get on their books. So it is important to reach out to SDG&E quickly. They're not super fast. And one thing I did want to point out about water meters as well is when adding an ADU or adding a junior ADU, we still want to be cautious of the amount of water usage. And what we do is we work specifically with the homeowner to make sure we avoid having to add or upgrade your water meter. And that is something that I've had people call me back and say, Chris, something happened, I have to upgrade my meter. And, they did not go through the process when they were working with another firm, where it's like you have to be careful of it. So I just wanted to highlight, don't forget about your water meter, and we can help you work through those requirements.
Perfect.
Chris, while you're on, what is the typical design cost?
Typical design costs. That's I always love those questions because it's like, well, how much does a house typically cost? It's a little bit, depends on the project. For a more straightforward garage conversion where it's an existing structure, the design cost, and it's everything from the due diligence, design, construction details, and permit processing, is between $9,000 to $10,000. If you have a complicated hillside, a brand new design, two-story construction, some complicated topography, then it can be up to potentially $12,000 to $13,000. But your design fees that include permit processing are typically $9,000 to $12,000 in general, $1,000.
And there was a mention that ADUs are up to 50% of the square feet of the main house, or is 800 square feet minimum allowed? So does that mean that if 50% of the house is under square feet, we are still allowed to build an ADU up to 800 square feet?
Depends.
It does depend. A lot of that depends on your municipality where the home is located. And this is a little bit of a gray area. The old law said if you were attached, you had to be 50% of what you attached to. But now the new law is coming in about restricting, not restricting the maximum sizes and so forth, the minimum sizes. So this question, it's a tiny bit of a gray area. And I would suggest that, we reach out to the building department for the municipality that you're in, just to clarify.
Yeah, and for me to chime in, the city of San Diego, so there was a property, the 3,600 square foot lot, where an old 1920 house was on with about 791 square feet and a detached garage. So you, on top of the detached garage, you were allowed to add 1,200 square feet. So if you consider the main house being 791, right, it makes no sense. So there's no 50. So remember, the minimum size is 850 square feet. So still in the city of San Diego, because of the lot coverage ratio, you still were allowed the ADU to be 1,200 square feet. You need to leave the garage in place. So you see, a lot depends on what you have on the property.
And that's why we always start each and every one of our projects with due diligence, because there's a lot of nuances, and every municipality is slightly different. City of San Diego, County of San Diego are great to work with. La Mesa and Encinitas are great to work with, but it really comes down to the new state laws and how they are implementing them.
And do those design costs include permit fees? What are you guys all seeing in terms of permit fees?
Those were design costs, not including permit fees. So permit fees, again, that depends even more on your municipality. There are two levels in terms of costs. If you're under 500 square feet, you do not have school fees, which is a one-time payment of just under $4 a square foot. And if you're under 750 square feet, you do not have development impact fees, which is part of your permit. City of San Diego, County of San Diego, for instance, already waived their development impact fee over the last couple of years, so their permit fees are quite low. Other municipalities still have, relatively more expensive permits, but they have come down. Permit fees, again, just to give a generality, a smaller size unit is probably under 5,000, and depending on where you're located, could be only a few thousand. And if you're a larger 1,200 square foot unit, it could be closer to 10,000. But again, these are very, very vague numbers and estimates based on generalities. It really comes down to your building municipality and where you're located. And if you have septic, we can still do projects with septic systems, and you may have extra tests required by the building department for septic.
And answering Anna's question, Lenska is great at helping investors buy raw land and add a single-family home and ADU. You don't even have to buy raw land. She does ask, how much does it cost approximately to add sewage, water, electric, gas to raw land?
Okay, that is a loaded question. And I just want to make a comment that, yes, it all sounds easy adding an ADU, but let's assume you have the main house in the front and you have a long, skinny lot, right? And you do have to bring your water lines. I wish Mike would be on the phone. You would need to bring your water lines and your sewer line and everything back. So the improvement costs can be quite, substantial. Remember the scenario on Gamma Street? So the $120,000 construction cost did include to tie in the sewer line of the ADU to the front house. Thankfully, they had enough fall in order to tie into that sewer line, and they did have to bring the water lines back. So in that $120,000, your improvement costs were included.
I think that's all the questions. And we're right at 12 noon. Perfect.
And I think, oh yes, this is the end. Thank you so much, and check out SDCIA. Give Meredith and Mike a call if you need cheap money. And give me a call if you are looking to buy or sell or need any help in any of your real estate transactions. Meredith, beautiful job being the tech person behind the scenes, and thanks for all the experts we have on. And remember, all this shall pass, and Americans are very strong and finally coming all together to fighting, what is it called, our visible enemy, and stay strong and invest smart.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye. All right, who do I have? Chris?
I'm here.
Did we stop recording? Did we sign off?